If you ever thought my VA will fix everything and then immediately panicked about HIPAA and passwords, PHI, and your entire livelihood, you're not wrong. Today we're breaking down what VAs can do, what they absolutely shouldn't do, and how to stay HIPAA compliant without losing your mind or your license. All right. Welcome, everyone. Remember, you can participate and unmute and be on the recording, or you can wait for a few minutes and then I will hit the pause button and you guys can ask questions then. I'm also going to open my chat so that if you want to pop things over there, I can keep an eye on it. And not only are we going to be talking about your VA experience and remaining HIPAA compliant, it's hot seat. So I know that's something maybe folks aren't used to, but hot seat just means if you have something that you want some feedback on your website, we can screen share. I can turn the co-hosting over to you and you can screen share and we can really drill down into what you want to get going here. So it's kind of nice. I like hot seat with my business coach because it's, kind of holds me accountable too. So let's talk about HIPAA and your VA first and foremost. I've got the participants. I want to make sure I got everybody here. Okay, good. All right, so the first thing with a VA, and I talked about this a little bit last time, is to think about why you want to use a VA, right? Because I know last time, I think when we talked about this, I talked somebody out of getting a VA because it was something that could be automated with scheduling software. So I would love, if you're thinking about a VA, I would love to have some conversation around why you think you need one and what exactly you're trying to give away. Because if you have been with me for any period of time, you know that if it is something outside of your zone of genius or even your zone of expertise, and these are from Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap, great book, highly recommend. But if it's outside of your zone of expertise or excellence or genius, you probably should farm it out. So things like bookkeeping or accounting or, financial planning, if that is not in your zone of competence, excellence, genius, yes, hire it out. But what we're talking about with a virtual assistant is, especially for those of you who are standalone practices, you're kind of off by yourself. You don't have a building, you don't necessarily have a chair and a desk for someone to sit in at the front office where you can just walk down the hallway and knock on the door and say, hey, do you need anything? A virtual assistant has to be very, very self-motivated, very self-starter, the ability to follow directions. And we've talked about SOP or a standard operating procedure. They should be able to follow an SOP very, very well. They should be great communicators. So if they do hit a point in your SOP and they don't know what to do, they should know how to contact you and know not to just bug you about things, but to be able to say, hey, I'm stuck, I need help here. But when it gets down to HIPAA, a lot of folks will talk about a BAA, which is a great thing. But when you're talking about a person, it's not a great thing. And here's why. So a business associate agreement is something that a company will offer you, not the other way around. A company will offer you, and it's a company generally that stores protected health information, not just comes in contact with it, but actually stores protected health information. And so with that BAA, they offer it to you, and they say, hey, look, we're going to partner with you in liability. So we're not saying we're perfect. We're not saying that we can end all be all and guarantee 100% that there will never be a breach. And if they do, check that. They may have some oceanfront property in Arizona that they're selling as well. But I mean, if they do, great. But what the BAA does, it says, okay, if something bad happens, we will partner with you Financially, we will partner with you as far as informing clients, because remember, if it's less than 500, you do one thing. If it's more than 500 people, you have to contact the media. So there's a lot you have to do if there's an information breach. And that's why you want a company, especially a big company like Google or Zoom, to be able to offer you that guarantee, the guarantee they'll partner with you if they are offering a HIPAA compliant product. And so, telehealth is relatively new to us because of COVID, but I mean, medicine has been doing this for a long, long time. So having a company that stores files or who provides telehealth, and they say, hey, we have this HIPAA compliant product over here that costs a little bit more, but we will sign the BAA. The BAA, you take it, you download it, you put it in a file, or, drag and drop or whatever. That does not work with people, right? Because you may have someone, a virtual assistant, who's going to come in contact with your PHI, but they're not storing your PHI, and they're not going to share financial liability with you for being in contact with that PHI. So if they offer you a business associate agreement, I would be like, no, I don't believe you could hold up to that BAA and that level of liability. And the same thing, you offering them a BAA doesn't make any sense because you're not going to protect their protected health information. So if you follow me. But what can help if you are going to use a person to interact with protected health information, either they're answering the phone, they're helping you file, they are doing your billing, something where they're coming in contact with clients and or protected health information, is to train them. Right. So remember, in the HIPAA self-audit that won't make you panic, and that should be going in your profile this month. But if you were there live, you saw this. You do a self-audit every year, identifying the things that you're doing well and identifying the things that you're not doing so well, or kind of, I think of them as holes in the fence, right? So, if you can document that every year, everybody on your team, from licensed personnel to non-licensed personnel to virtual assistants in the Philippines, are taking a HIPAA training, and they have to provide documentation. So they have to give you a certificate that says they took the HIPAA training, then you can confidently report in your self-audit that you require HIPAA training, and 100% of your office staff is compliant with that. Now, does that guarantee that there will never be a breach, right? No, nothing can guarantee that. But you can at least do your due diligence. And remember, with HIPAA, it just requires training once you hire someone. House Bill 300, which mirrors HIPAA, it's a little bit more stringent with the training. So just to be on the safe side, you could require HIPAA training once a year. And now, not only are you doing the whole CYA, but your staff is actually well trained. The other thing, going the virtual assistant route, if you're going to have them interact with protected health information, if you're going to a company like Fiverr or Upwork, I've used both. You can look for specialists who interact with protected health information. So if you attended the live webinar with where I interviewed Irvin and I interviewed Jennifer, my virtual assistants, that's one of the things Irvin says is, when you hire us, you're hiring skilled labor. So you shouldn't have to, in other words, if I'm advertising that I interact with HIPAA, I can communicate with clients, I have training in this, you shouldn't have to reteach me that. So do your due diligence as well. So when you're starting out with your interview process, make sure that you find skilled personnel who understand protected health information. So, that's half the battle. Other things that, things like passwords, there's software that's not necessarily HIPAA, but I know it's concerning, right? You don't want to share passwords with folks. But there's software out there. One of the ones I use is called LastPass, and you can use that to share passwords without making it visible. Now, that doesn't outsmart two-factor identification. So if you have something like Google, it seems like every time I switch Google profiles, it's like, you got to log in again. You have to, we want to double check. We're going to send you a 6-digit code. Um, so that's one thing to incorporate into your SOP, but I digress a little bit because that's not really HIPAA. HIPAA is going to be more about the training, making sure that you document that you've trained and that there's an official HIPAA training out there somewhere. You can take mine, you can take anybody's, but that you have someone reliable that they can go interact with and learn HIPAA so that you can plug them into those client interacting spots. But part of my presentation today is I was actually going to try to talk you out of using folks to interact with HIPAA because most software, I mean, it does that for you, right? So if you're taking notes, if you have a filing system, you should be able to have a HIPAA compliant filing system. The other thing would be maybe answering calls. And in that case, I'm wondering if you have a group practice, definitely probably need to hire someone. And we've got Amanda Esquivel going to give us a presentation on that in November. But if it's just you, I would wonder, okay, why aren't you returning your own phone calls? So that's part of what I was going to interact with y'all today to see if there were any questions about VAs and HIPAA. So let me pause it. I'm not going to hit pause. If somebody wants to pop a question into the chat, go for it. If this video helped you figure out what a VA can actually do safely, hit like, tap subscribe, and grab the Essential Guide to Private Practice at katewalkertraining.com/free guide. It'll help you build systems to protect you, your clients, and your time.